welcome to this week's Hymn of the Week. This week we have ELW 319, O Lord, throughout these 40 days. And that is the tune that was used in the Lutheran Book of Worship, also known as the Green Hymnal, which is called Caithness. So, interesting tune. That tune was removed in the Evangelical Lutheran worship and replaced with Consolation. So let's listen to Consolation. So I like actually both tunes. In fact, the notes about that are that some claim that the text has a little more meditative space. So there's more time to reflect due to its melismas. That's something I think you can decide for yourself. How about this tune, though, as I offer a third tune that goes with the Lord throughout these 40 days? Let me sing it coming from the 1940 Episcopal hymnal. This is a really nice tune. It's the one I know very well. Slow and reflective, or St. Flavian is the tune for that. But we've landed upon Consolation, so I wanted at least to show and demonstrate the three tunes. Each of them has its own value and importance, and of course Consolation is a great fit for this tune. As we can see the text, it says, based on Claudia Hernemann, because it was paraphrased. But the original text by Claudia Hernemann was first published in 1873 as part of the collection The Child's Book of Praise, a manual devotion in simple verse. I find that very interesting because when we look at Claudia's background, she's composed over 150 hymns in her lifetime, and most of them were for children. So, being that this is part of the Child's Book of Praise, we probably think it was for children. We don't know that for sure, but we do know it was a manual devotion in simple verse. So each of these verses has something to teach us about Lent. And in fact, I think it has the classic themes of Lent contained. So when we look at the original Elizabethan English, it's slightly different from the paraphrase here. So let me read first verse. Lord, who throughout these 40 days for us did fast and pray, teach us with thee to mourn our sins, and close by thee to stay. This is about fasting and prayer. That verse is also in ELW 319. How about verse 2? As thou with Satan didst contend and didst the victory win, O give us strength in thee to fight, in thee to conquer sin. So this is the struggle with Satan. And of course, verse 2 is pretty much paraphrased in ELW 319. How about verse 3? As thou didst hunger, bear, and thirst, so teach us, gracious Lord, to die to self and chiefly live by thy most holy word. Verse 3, also paraphrased in ELW 319, more about maybe denying self, dying to self. Verse 4 from the Elizabethan English, and through these days of penitence and through thy passion tide, yea, evermore in life and death, Jesus with us abide. Interestingly enough, that's left out of 319. It's a verse that really is important to understanding the hymn because it ties in the theme of Lent. And in fact, that yea, evermore in life and death, Jesus with us abide, that Jesus is abiding with us through our lives, even in the season of penitence. So that verse was left out, and then we have verse 5 from the Elizabethan English, abide with us, that so this life of suffering overpast, in Easter of unending joy we may attain at last. This reminds us to look ahead to the joy of Easter. So we have those four themes really coming through: fasting and prayer, struggling with Satan, dying to self, denying self, and then, of course, looking to the joy of Easter. So really wonderful way to celebrate and commemorate Lent. In fact, each of us could take maybe one of those verses and pray about them each week. So here is, O Lord, throughout these 40 days. I like ending this hymn with that chime to remind us that it can be that quick that we're removed from this life on earth and in heaven with Jesus as believers. So it's a great reminder, and I think it applies particularly for an Ash Wednesday service. So it's something to possibly try. The other thing that I want to mention is I can also see as, from researching, the reason for removing that verse being that with today's Lent, we're counting the days. Often we're singing these hymns on Sundays, and Sundays doesn't really officially count as Lent. So therefore, removing that verse about the season of penitence and looking forward to Easter, reminding ourselves of Jesus' resurrection, while still incorporating the many key concepts of Lent, can be very appropriate. So thank you very much for listening to Hymn of the Week.